You have been lied to about how to lose weight. The common advice of just eat less and do more cardio is absolute garbage, and in this video I will teach you not only why this advice is bad, but also how to do it in a way more effective way. Let's go. So starting off with the social proof, I did this. So I basically lost 5 kilos or 11 pounds in 26 days, and as you can see, this is mostly fat. You can see on the left I'm quite a little bit chubby, especially around the waistline, and only 26 days later I was a lot more lean, and I basically didn't lose any muscle or any strength whatsoever. So now I will teach you how to do it, but first we have to look at the common advice and why that common advice might be bad. So the common advice basically is eat in a caloric deficit, so eat less calories than you burn. Then the common advice is do cardio, get in 10,000 steps a day, and eat lean beef or lean meat in general, so basically low fat meat, also because it has less calories. So I will now go into why all of that advice is sometimes only bad and sometimes even counterproductive. So let's start with the calories. So calories do not really matter for the human body and also don't matter for when you're trying to lose weight, because we have to first understand how calories are tracked, or how calories are, I guess, counted. So how calories are counted is that they are burned inside of a machine, but that machine is closed, so it's a closed system. The human body, on the other side, is not a closed system. We have an open body, an open system. We interact with the environment through our lungs and our skin. And also, not every food, not every ounce, every gram of food that we eat will be burned for energy. For example, if you work out a lot, then your body might need 100 grams of protein just to rebuild its muscle, or rebuild the muscle that you destroyed while working out. So that 100 grams of protein then cannot be used as energy because it's already used up in the body, right? So that's why calories don't really make any sense. And you might now say, well, yeah, but people that restrict their calories, they actually do lose weight. And that is true, but calorie restriction is mostly starvation, because people who eat less calories than they burn usually eat so many less calories than they burn that they end up starving themselves, and they start eating their own body. The next thing people are saying is that you should do a lot of cardio because it burns fat and burns more calories. So I would say that cardio is very counterproductive. In this period of time where I lost those 11 pounds in 26 days, I did simply nothing. I didn't do any cardio. What I did do, I will tell you later. So cardio, it only stresses the body, it only increases your cortisol, and it makes you disproportionately more hungry. So for example, you burn 600 calories when you went for an hour of jogging, but then you're so hungry because you just jogged and because you stressed your body so much that you then have the hunger to consume more than 600 calories. So that's why cardio is counterproductive. Also, stress for the body is never a good idea, and that's why I would just say, if you want to lose weight, then just don't do any cardio. It's not a good idea. So next, 10,000 steps. This is better because it doesn't stress the body as much, but it's still a waste of time, because what I'm about to show you is just immediately gonna make you lose all of the fat that you want without you having to do anything. And getting in 10,000 steps, depending on what kind of job you have or what kind of things you do day to day, is kind of tough. If you sit around all day in your job or in the school, then getting in 10,000 steps might take 2-3 hours of just walking, which is just a total waste of time if you can do other things that do it pretty much just as fast. But the only thing it's good for is for sunlight and fresh air. So if you are inside a lot, then going for a walk in general is probably a good idea, just that you don't fucking need to do 10,000 steps. And the next thing is that low fat is really stupid. So people always tell you when you want to lose fat, you gotta eat less fat, which doesn't make any sense because fat doesn't create fat. That's a lie, that's not true. What is true though is that you need fat for hormones. And guess what you need hormones for? You need hormones when you want to lose weight. So when you get no fat, then you get no hormones and then you can't lose any weight. Also, fat is the most satiating food for humans. So when you want to lose weight, then it's probably a good idea to not be hungry. How are you not hungry? By eating more fat. So in my opinion, it is very crucial that you eat up as much fat as you want and really stock up on that fat. Again, fat doesn't create fat. Eat as much as you want. All that you need for fat loss is an understanding about how your hormones work. And we'll get into that later. So, we now have to understand what makes a person fat in the first place. And in today's world, there are two main reasons why people might be fat. So the first one is that this person is consuming too many seed oils. Because seed oils, vegetable oils, for example, sunflower oil, all that kind of bullshit, they do harden in the body. So for example, when a person has a lot of cellulite, those little weird spots that nobody can explain, those are hardened vegetables or seed oils. That is not actual human fat. If it was actually human fat, it wouldn't be that bad because you can get rid of it easily. But with seed oils, it's a lot harder and it takes a lot more time because they are not natural to your body. They are not part of your body. They're just basically invading you. And the second reason is that people nowadays constantly spike their insulin. I mean, think about it. Insulin, a high insulin is caused by eating a lot of sugar, but it doesn't need to be table sugar. It could also be, fruit, honey. It could also be just normal sugar. It could also be sweets. It could also be any other carbohydrate that you're eating. It could be pasta, it could be potatoes, it could be all of that, rice, everything. And that is what most people are eating. Most people are eating a very high carbohydrate diet, sometimes 200, 300, 400 grams of carbohydrates a day. And it is impossible to build new fat without high insulin. And it is impossible to lose fat with insulin. So when you have insulin constantly spiked, it is literally impossible to lose fat. That is why most people are starving themselves, because they are also starving themselves of carbohydrates for sometimes, longer periods of time. And that is why they are able to lose fat, because then they don't have that insulin spike. But if you don't have the insulin spike in the first place, then you will lose weight anyways. This is why, for example, intermittent fasting works quite well for people losing weight, because for 16 hours, they are not spiking their insulin. Right? Not to say that fasting is good. I think fasting is also starvation, but that's a different subject. So now, what is the best way to burn fat fast? And in my opinion, and in my experience especially, it is to lower insulin by eating less carbohydrates. And you do that by eating less than 50 grams of carbohydrates total each day. Ideally, you would eat probably less. At the time where I lost this weight in the 26 days, I probably only ate around 10 grams of carbohydrates. I was full carnivore at the time, pretty much zero carbohydrates. And what you need to do is you need to cut out bread, pasta, honey, milk, everything. Even though milk, honey, and all of that kind of stuff, right, is not necessarily bad. Also fruit, it's not necessarily bad, but if you really want to lose weight, then there's still carbohydrates in there, there's still fructose, there's still glucose in there. You're still, the whole body works hormonally, right? And even if you eat relatively healthy stuff, your hormones still dictate if you can lose weight or not. And that is why you need to basically limit that as much as possible. There's another side benefit of cutting out most glucose, most carbohydrates, because you will also lose a lot of water weight. For example, whenever you have a lot of glycogen in your body, so a lot of glucose basically, then that will bind to water in the body, okay? But when you get rid of all carbohydrates, then you will suddenly lose a lot of water weight, and you could be losing Depending on how much you weigh, you could be losing up to 5, sometimes even 10. You know, if you're like 300 pounds, you could lose 10 pounds of water in a week or two just by cutting out carbohydrates. Your face is gonna look better, you're gonna feel better, you're gonna be less bloated. Very, very nice. And this is how you can burn fat like crazy. Now, if you want to lose weight or you have something else that you want help with, then click the link below because I have a very, very special offer for you. I will see you there. Bye.